We are joined on this episode by some of the folks behind Wonder Wheel Productions, an artistic collaboration between Toby Poser, John Adams, and their daughters Lulu and Zelda Adams. They are a DIY and DIA, as in do it all, filmmaking family known collectively by many as the Adams family, with several feature films under their belt, including The Deeper You Dig and Hellbender. Their latest release, Where the Devil Roams, is now in select theaters and as of November 7th is available on VOD as well. Here to speak with us on behalf of said family are John and Toby. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us on the program here.
Shawn and Becky, thanks for having us. This is so cool.
Very nice, you guys.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk with you both. I caught Where the Devil Roams at the Telluride Horror Show earlier this month, and so I have a lot of questions for you. Can't wait to get into that. But before we go there, we're going to take a step way back and ask what got you interested in filmmaking to begin with? Was there a person, experience, or a movie or some piece of pop culture that got you hooked? Maybe, each of you, something that happened when you were younger?
Well, I think that filmmaking as a family came just through a whole bunch of experiences, like kind of down an hourglass until suddenly we shot through on the other side of the hourglass and we were making films as a family. We were living in Los Angeles. I had been asked to be on like a kind of reality TV show. Toby was doing films and theater, but we were kind of at a little bit of a lull and in work and money. And the kids had been talking about wanting to be actresses. And so Toby had turned 40 and, kind of the industry wasn't really looking at her very hard anymore, which is a big mistake. So she wrote a script and we bought an RV and we lived in an RV for a year and we shot our first movie and completely fell in love with the process and realized that our lives had kind of brought us to the magic moment of filmmaking.
Yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm of opportunities and frustrations because John has always been a great visual artist. He's always been a painter and he's a carpenter and he's a musician. So it was really natural for him to move into using a camera. And we had a friend, painting images through the camera. We had a friend who's a DP and he just gave John a quick lesson. And then when we hit the road and then we were in San Francisco and I had a college friend who's an editor and he gave John a quick lesson and then John started teaching us to use the camera. And it's funny because the DNA of our filmmaking has changed very little since then. We still use a lot of the same practices. Natural light. We shoot where we are. If something kind of rolls in front of us that we love, we just go for it. It's funny, not much has changed.
I was going to ask, did either of you do any schooling or anything formal in terms of education in each of your respective arts? Toby with your acting and John with music, or were you also kind of self-taught in those regards?
Yeah, I went to acting school. I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in theater from Tulane and also Goldsmiths College in London. So yeah, and then I just dived into a big theater career. John is like a master of self-taught trades.
I'm not a master of anything, but yeah, punk rock all the way. I was never good in school. And so total punk rock.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, I think what I like to do is learn what I need to learn, so like Toby mentioned editing when we got our first little bit of footage in the RV and I said, oh my God, I got to edit this thing. I hit a YouTube video and said how to edit. And, some 13-year-old kid from Iowa explained it to me and that's all I needed to know.
And were you always in the horror genre or was that something you liked when you were younger? Or is it something that you grew into over time?
It's funny. Our first script that we wrote that year, which was 2010, when our girls were 6 and 11, was meant to be a genre film. It was supposed to be a really violent, kind of brutal, creepy Western ghost story. So we set out with those intentions. We realized quickly that making it a period piece was going to be hard for our first go-round. So we contemporized it. We started shooting it. We're in the RV. We're loving life. And John turns to me one day and he goes, Tobe, I got to tell you something. I really just don't want to kill the kids. And I'm like, man, I don't want to kill the kids either. So we made 4 dramas. It turned into a dark drama. We kind of earned our place to start making genre films with The Deeper You Dig. But leading up to that, we were making dramas until we felt comfortable stepping into the genre that really felt natural and like home for us, which was horror and the supernatural.
That's interesting. Yeah, I would have assumed that it was kind of always there. But you'd mentioned the girls wanting to act, maybe following in your footsteps, Toby. And John's wrong about one thing. At 40, you can play all kinds of roles like grandma, great grandma, wife of an 80-year-old man. There's plenty of roles out there when a woman turns 40. No, I'm kidding. That's an indictment on the industry. No, I sympathize. Trust me. Yeah, they do not treat women kindly when it comes to anything of that nature. But so getting into how the family operates, because it's such an interesting thing with the way you all are DIY and DIA, as I said. When you get to the point where you know that like, okay, this is the next picture we're going to make. It's set in stone. Like once you've had a conversation about it, is there a point where you all hash out your respective roles, plural? Because I know you all have a lot of hats you wear at this point, or have you kind of begun to just know that one of you will be heading up a certain department? As John mentioned, he's kind of the editor, or Toby will handle the screenwriting, or, the like. Is there any kind of formal process, or has it always been just, it kind of comes naturally to you guys?
I don't think there's a formal process. Now it does come naturally to us. We all just fall into place. We know how to talk to each other as a family. We've learned each other's strong points. And I think at this point, we move very fluid once we understand what the next movie is going to be. Like, for example, when Zelda came up with the idea for Where the Devil Roams, we kicked into gear super fast. Toby got down to, like you had said, nailing down at least an outline for the script. Like we don't really have scripts, but Toby has notes that are detailed and thought through. And Zelda and I quickly started talking about cinematography, and Lulu and I started building sets, because everybody kind of has their strong suit and we all kind of fall into place kind of happily, don't you think?
Yeah, it can be pretty fluid though too, because right now we're really excited about something we want to work on, but we're busy with a lot of projects. So John's actually been cranking out a great outline and kind of early script, which is a little unusual for us to have so many like scenes like down on paper, and he's just rocking it, and it's such a pleasure. And then he shares it with us, and the rest of us kind of give our 2 cents. And then it kind of becomes this amoeba that changes form. But he's the one he's the original amoeba right now. So it can be pretty fluid how we work.
Do you ever get into kind of awkward family arguments when you disagree on the direction of something? Is there like a really awkward family dinner at some point? Or have you found out ways to work through kind of those sorts of creative challenges together?
Only awkward Becky and that if we're in public, people are like, what are these guys talking about? Cutting off grandma's head, Yeah. It can be pretty funny. But no, after I think 10 features, like basically we of different kinds, we've really kind of learned to dance with each other nicely. And it's super democratic. So in other words, if John, Zelda, and I are on the set, and Lulu too, when she's around, if we have different opinions, we'll shoot it 3 or 4 different ways. And whichever one feeds the story best always kind of rises in the editing. But no, we learned pretty quickly that it's not fun if you're not having fun. And we have to respect that we have different visions. And so we just shoot it how we want.
That's good to know that there's a good democratic kind of notion that, especially if it's just the 3 of you, at least there's a decision that can be made that's unanimous, 2 out of 3 at worst. But yeah, I think to your point, the mantra of like, does it serve the story is usually going to be told, like you said, when the editing process, maybe you're looking at it with fresh eyes. It's always easy to maybe come to a better understanding. Like, yeah, that version is the one that serves the story best. And I think that's probably a good mantra to go by.
It's very interesting how different cuts just rise right to the top on the editing bay. You can, like, I could be very confident in the way I want to direct a scene and think like Zelda's idea is kind of weird. And as soon as you put it up on the screen, like that weird scene is perfect. And you're like, oh my God, I didn't see that. I'm glad we shot it. And that's what's nice about shooting as a family. We're not burning people's time and we're not burning money. So we're just hanging out. And if we don't argue with each other, we can get a lot more done. Like standing on set, if we talk too much about like direction or what each of us wants, we've just wasted a whole bunch of time that we could have just shot it and gone home and looked at it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Well, why don't we do both versions instead of standing around arguing about which version we should do? Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's really fun. And it's fun to see everybody's ideas on the editing bay.
It really is, because we are three people with sometimes three very different, strong opinions. But in the end, as long as we understand there's got to be some kind of solid foundation that these three opinions will work together, it's kind of a cool thing because we're going at it from three different, hopefully original angles, which is nice because sometimes it's hard to be original in film and come up with something that no one else has done or thought of. It's super hard. So when you have three of us kind of contributing our ideas, it can be super helpful and we back each other up.
Also, you just said something that's important. I think that the four of us pretty much agree on our tone. Like no one in the family is like, let's make this more rom-com-y or let's make this more, vicious, or like we all are pretty much in the same box of tone. And then within that tone, we got differing opinions.
Yeah.
I love the way
sense.
I love the way you're thinking about it though, in terms of like everyone is adding perspective. It's not necessarily a conflict that you see things different ways at times.
Oh, yeah.
It's actually a benefit because maybe you would have shot it that one way and you never got to see the other version in the editing bay that is the magic that you were looking for. So I love how you approach that philosophically. Something I think a lot of people can learn from, even if you're not making movies as a family, just in terms of creative collaboration.
That's really nice of you to say. And, the kids are of a different generation. They're, for me, a different gender. Toby, too. It's like, it's fun to see what people bring from their viewpoints of life. It is cool. So that's nice that you pointed that out.
You mentioned Zelda a few times. In fact, you mentioned that she had come up with the idea for the current film, Where the Devil Roams. I do want to ask, I know she's not here to answer, but I feel like one of you can say, was the initial germ of that idea, like what came first, the sideshow circus performer aspect or the Depression era setting? What kind of hatched that idea in Zelda's mind? Two things happened. The first thing that happened was Zelda wanted to do a photo shoot where she was Bonnie and Clyde. So my dad has an old 31 Chevy. So she dressed up as Bonnie and Clyde and we composited them together. And when we were shooting the pictures and turned them into black and white, we all just fell in love with the images. Like it was really fun. It was really fun to see her dress up. It was just the romance of it all was super inspiring. So that was the first thing that happened. And we all said to each other, like, wow, we should make like a gangster movie because this is so great looking. Then Zelda talked to Toby about a nightmare she had.
Yeah, Zelda's kind of afraid of clowns. She was really into American Horror Stories, fourth season, maybe, Freak Show, I think it was. But the clown really scared the shit out of her. But she did have this nightmare about a family of clowns. So then we thought, okay, well, maybe we should just morph this into a family of sideshow performers. And the depression, with the car, everything just fell into place in the most beautiful way. I mean, I can remember hearing her tell about her nightmare and just like crackling. It was like the air around me was crackling. And we knew, oh my God, we got to make a film out of this, because also it really tied in so beautifully with where we were as a family outside the film, because Zelda was a senior in high school. We weren't sure the DNA of our filmmaking was going to change when she joined Lulu in the adult world, leaving home. And so making a film about a family that is being, torn apart kind of literally, and what you do to keep the pieces together kind of literally. It just became this fun, beautiful Frankenstein, Bonnie and Clyde, Grapes of Wrath, Mice of Men hybrid that we were super stoked to make.
One of the things I really think is interesting in the film is the way the family showcases their love for one another and their affection towards each other, but not necessarily for other people, particularly those who are not very generous with them or are frankly like bad people. Was there some sort of bigger message there about, the way the world treats outcasts and outsiders and those less fortunate?
I'll bet you each of us has our own answer. For me, my answer is yes, there's a bigger message. First of all, it's a horror, we love making horror movies. So we needed the horror aspect, to kind of drive the adventure and basically, like, this sounds weird, but the fun of the movie. But for me, it's a movie about America, kind of where we all are today. Like, there's a huge gulf between rich and poor. There's a lot of like disenfranchised people. And we're all not murderers. But by making these people murderers, it just accentuates the fact, and it drives home at least the point that I thought was important, which is I feel like America's a little confused right now and a little bit like kind of caught in a whirlpool of hatred. But we're all ultimately good people, I think. And that's what this story is about. Now, we can kind of hide it in metaphors of murder, but then, as you say, balance it out with love. So like all the violence that happens is either balanced out by a familial love or it's balanced out by payback. Like, for example, there's a tooth scene after Toby commits a kind of a brutal little murder. The next thing that happens to her is she has to get a tooth taken out of her face with a hatchet and a screwdriver. And so it's like, I think it's, at least for me, it's, talking about no matter how brutal life is, there is a lot of love there, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious to hear your perspective, Toby.
We love complex characters, and it's not fun or cool if you're just making a family that everyone sort of loves. We think it's more interesting if you have a family that people sometimes feel challenged to love. And this is definitely a family that you can feel challenged to love because they do some pretty hideous things, and they do pay. Like throughout the course of the film, their pain becomes their currency. Their fame is through their pain. And so that gives you a really rich playing field in terms of character arcs. We really just wanted to play with these kind of denizens of the earth. They're sort of citizens of the dirt. And the Depression was a time where people were dirt poor and dirt hungry. And it was so much fun to play within that realm. And we also wanted to, like John said, the balance of love was super important. How far will these people go to love each other unconditionally and reach a place of ultimate togetherness, essentially? And that's why it really helped us to have this undercurrent of the mythology we created with Abaddon, the fallen angel, and his love story was a fun kind of, it was this fun sort of axis silently working underneath what's happening above on Earth with these carnies. It just was so much fun. I got to be honest. I miss these characters every day.
Yeah, they're just so textured and layered, and it's hard to put them in a box and simplify them. And I think you could also say the same about the aesthetic of the film, particularly with color. So, it starts out, the intro is in black and white, and then it transitions to color, and then it slowly gets more and more desaturated throughout the course of the film, and then it's black and white again. Was there a specific motivation behind that choice?
Absolutely. We wanted to drain the color from this film, just like the life was getting drained from the family. And that was the main objective. But there was also the objective of that when you look at that black and white imagery, like Trey Lindsay, who's our effects guy and Fifth Family member, he did such a good job of making it look like an authentic black and white film. By the time you're at the end, the transition's been a little slow. It just helps the dark romance of it and the believability of it and kind of the mythology of these characters in the movie. So for us, we had watched a lot of black and white films. We were getting really into them, like Vampire and Frankenstein and a bunch of them. We were just into it. And so when you watch those movies, the dark romance is built into it. And we also noticed that the horror community is really accepting of that. Like, people still watch Vampire. They still watch black and white movies in the horror community. They don't care that it has to be modern or shot on digital or anything. So it was just a great chance to also have an artistic good time.
Yeah, and two other things I'll mention as well. As the color was sort of rotting out of the film, it was sort of becoming, it's like in 1931, I think, was Frankenstein, and the talkies were really kind of the death knell of vaudeville. So it kind of played in well that this carnival circuit is just tanking, and so it was just kind of fun to sort of put our characters into this black and white talkie film, and then in the end, bringing it back to the surface with a jolt of color. And the other thing I was going to say was really, two things we really had to think hard about to commit to that black and white. First, we were shooting in this place in this old boarding house that is the most beautiful blue color. And the hall is just so cool looking and with these blue tones. And to shoot that in the black and the white at the end, we were like, oh my God, how can we not show the blue? And then the other thing was the blood. By the time we have the final World War I flashback, and there's crazy amounts of blood within that scene with John, with the character Seven, we were like, how can we not show this blood? It's so great, against John's blue eyes. But then we realized, oh, you know what? When you put color, things that you're used to in color, particularly like blood that you associate immediately with red, of course, and you commit to the black and white, it was a really wonderful kind of exercise in restraint, I think, as editors, that we made this choice. No, let's lose those colors that we all associate and let the black and white, the sepia tones kind of take over. And it took some commitment to do that, but it was really worth it, don't you think?
Oh yeah. And Zelda, actually, the first edit me and Trey did, we had decided, you know what, maybe we shouldn't turn it to black and white. Let's just show it to everybody full color. And as soon as Zelda watched like halfway through, she's like, why isn't this turning into black and white? And we were like, we just wanted you to see it in color. She's like, I don't want to watch it anymore. Like, I told you we're turning it to black and white. So turn it to black and white and then I'll watch it. So she was, I'm really glad that she stuck to her guns.
Me too.
As we've talked about, sometimes in film and visual medium, doing the thing that looks coolest is best. But oftentimes, like we've talked about, what serves the story best is the pick. So yeah, you guys, I think you chose correctly. But yeah, there is a line you have to debate sometimes of why can't we just put this in because it looks cool? Because that is what some of the biggest things we've ever thought about in cinema history were there just because they were cool, not because they served a purpose necessarily. But yeah, it's good that you guys, again, have that democratic kind of notion where you see it and you go, yeah, you know what? It serves a story. We're going
that one was actually a dictatorship. Zelda was the dictator on that. That was one where she was like, no. Because Toby and I were like, it looks really good color, Zell. And she's like, no, go fix it. And she was right.
Yep.
Well, maybe when there's a Blu-ray, folks can see an alternative cut if Zelda allows it with with all color.
We thought about that, actually. We thought about that because it's a different movie. But also, I mean, the intro, you mentioned the intro. That was something that we wanted to do. That was a nod to Frankenstein, because in the beginning of Frankenstein, they bring out an MC who kind of says, hey, he makes an announcement about the movie and says it's a little scary and things like this. And so that was a nod to Frankenstein, but it was also a way, like, if you're listening to our MC talk to that audience about what they're just about to watch, it's all pretty important stuff. Because like Toby said, it's the myth of Abaddon, which is very important thread throughout the film. So if you listen to the poem, all the details of what is coming are laid out.
Yeah, I do think though, just going back to the transition was so slow that you almost don't know, you don't really notice it, right, as a viewer, because it happens over time until suddenly you're in full black and white, and then you're like, wait, it's black and white now. But I think it was so effective because you felt it. And that's one of those things that maybe is one way on paper, but then seeing it happen and seeing how you experience it and feel it as a viewer definitely makes an impact.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, Becky, isn't Telluride Horror Show so cool?
Oh, yeah.
We love that festival so much. Have you been there, Shawn?
Oh, I have a few times now. Yes. Paper Street was sad to miss it this year. We, I don't know if you know this, but Becky and her partner Brad they host the trivia every Sunday at the festival there. And when we're there, we certainly participate in that. But yeah, Brad also helps introduce a lot of the films. So.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. It's just a marvelous festival with a great crowd, and the people who put it together are just wonderful.
Yep.
I will share that with all. It's definitely close to home and in the family for that fest. So Where the Devil Roams played very well with the Telluride Horror Show crowd. And I'm sure Zelda told you all about it.
He did. Actually, there was a scene that was shot in Telluride too. Like, because Zelda and I were out there for a short, right?
Yeah, I was there too.
Yeah, all of us. And we shot something on a hotel that made it to the movie. So Telluride's forever with us.
Nice. Yeah, nothing but, again, our previous episode was actually all about the lead up to it and us trying to promote that festival, because we at Paper Street love it dearly. And we hope to run into you guys there in one of the future years, because anytime we can actually make it, we will be there. It's become one of our favorite weeks of the year to go visit that.
Oh, yeah.
We are down with you. And sometimes we think part of the reason we make movies is so we can get to Telluride.
No, Travis Bowles, who was our guest last episode to talk about it, said that very thing about you guys as a very kind compliment from you. That was warmed his heart. That part of it was for you guys to have an excuse to come there. So,
well, awesome.
And just similar note, Becky had mentioned that we're talking about the aesthetic and the color choice. I want to talk about the music as well because it feels a bit anachronistic, but really does set a mood. And I know you guys are, again, your DIY, DIA. You created all the music, if I'm not mistaken?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess the question is, was that vibe something you'd planned before you started shooting, or did that emerge in post? Did you use some existing stuff? How'd you go about the music?
Yeah, great question. It came about as we were filming. We initially set out to kind of write like 1930s type music that would sound right on the carnival stage, and we wrote, I don't know, 3 or 4 songs. And when we put them up, as the footage as I started to edit, it really didn't seem honest, and we were like, ooh, this is not honest. This doesn't play well. And so we talked a lot, like, okay, so what should we do about the music? And we had been we love Peaky Blinders. And we noticed that Peaky Blinders has 0 problems rocking the heavy rock against, these old timey stuff. And so we figured we'd give it a try. And we had been really into a couple bands. One was called Pigs, and another band called Slomosa. So as a band, our style was getting heavier and heavier with the girls' ethereal vocals over top. And so we had written a bunch of songs and we thought, well, let's just fly a couple in, see how it looks. And the first one we flew in over some images, it just worked so well. And I think it also helps because we weren't like setting out to make a completely authentic 1930s movie. It's an experiential type movie. Like the actors in it have modern tattoos. They have piercings. There's little bits and things that are very modern, and we didn't try to hide them. It's an experiential movie.
Certainly a surrealist aspect to it. Hey, Scorsese had people with Brooklyn accents in Last Temptation of Christ, so you guys are good. And yeah, Peaky Blinders, open with like Red Right Hand. So yeah, I'm with you. The needle drops in that show still somehow fit. So yeah, I'm all for people using modern needle drops and some period stuff if it fits.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and people seem to react well to it. So we feel like happy about it.
Going back to just you guys have done several features now. Do you have in your mind maybe like one of the biggest challenges you've ever faced to date when it comes to making these films? Because again, you find a way with the DIY spirit, but is there been just major roadblocks at any point where like something was near impossible or you just had to pivot completely away from?
Well, that's a good one.
That is a good one.
Well, I'll tell you, our third film, which was called The Shoot, which could almost be like considered a thriller with a little, dose of horror. We shot that film in 2014, I think. And we had made 2 dramas we felt really good about. And we thought, okay, we've got a little bit of money right now. Let's kind of have a bigger cast. We're going to shoot in the Mojave Desert and in Joshua Tree. We're going to shoot in downtown LA. And we're going to have a big cast. And I hate to use this word, but we felt like we failed. We just had bitten off more than we could chew. The girls were not in it. We thought the film had just a meanness. It was missing their energy. And it just, it's probably not a bad film, but we were not happy with it. And it was a great lesson in, that sometimes you don't get it. And sometimes it's not that we didn't have a great cast, which we did. They were wonderful to work with. We had great locations. It was just missing some kind of like heart that I think is usually paramount for us in our films. And that was kind of painful. And it's not that it'll be the last time that happens.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest roadblock is, you always want to be making movies, but like Where the Devil Roams just unfolded in front of us. Like that was a movie where we talked about it, boom, we were shooting and we just chased it. And it was so fun. Like it was just a beautiful year. And the other ones were all beautiful too. Hellbender was just a beautiful time. The Deep You Dig was a beautiful time. But sometimes it is difficult and you don't know why. We just had an experience recently where, we might have had a hard time with something.
We're not even sure how to talk about it.
Yeah, we're not sure how to talk about it. But again, it's more like it's a good lesson. And I think what we learned from the shoot was don't ride it off a cliff. If you're headed towards a cliff, stop, relax, find the fun again, and keep going. Like if it's not fun, we probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little about what we're talking about. So we got SAG interim agreement this August and we shot something in 2 weeks, which is like really fast for us. Usually we shoot over a year. And we were using a cast that of some new people and some oldies that we love. It was a small cast. It was just like us on steroids. It was fun to make, but we made it so fast that we're not even sure yet. We just have that nugget that makes it work. And we're kind of, we're at this place where we're, like John says, we're sort of standing on this cliff wondering which way do we jump down or do we pull something back up? We've got a lot to figure out. And it's, even though it was a 2-week shoot, you know what it's like, you guys, you put your heart into something and you work your asses off. And this is one of those times where we're just, we're not sure what we have. And
another fun idea, jump to the front burner. And so, that's the nice thing about being a family of filmmakers is we haven't spent somebody's $1 million. It's not like the only thing we've done is hung out together, made art, and we're not sure that it's good enough art. So that's all we've done. We haven't wasted anybody's time. We haven't burned anybody's money, And so now this other idea has come up that seems more fun and more clear and maybe more where we belong. So I think that's kind of an esoteric answer to your question, but that's really our biggest fights. Because, Toby, when you think about it, we've started other movies that we've just bagged really quick because we realized, nope, this isn't genuine. This isn't honest.
And we're kind of like forcing it.
Yep. So we just cancel it. But the nice thing is we haven't done we don't do GoFundMe campaigns. We don't have producers that have gone and found financing. So it's the nice thing about it is we're still just hanging out together. So there's nothing lost, it's all good, And
it might sound like a bunch of like hoo-ha, but I really feel like in a way we're still in this kind of beautiful, maybe not infancy, but I feel like our filmmaking is still in this one. I guess it'll always evolve. Hopefully, if you're making art and being creative, you're always going to evolve and grow. But I feel like for us, every time we make a film, we learn so much that in a way I do feel sometimes like a toddler who's like, oh, now I took a new step, or now like, I'm sitting at the table. So I feel like it's kind of fun to just know that, hey, you're gonna go through growing pains, but you're gonna grow.
I think that's one of the amazing things about being an artist is it shows you that you have new things to learn all the time, which is great. And it was interesting. The answer to this question really segued into something I had planned to ask you all, which was, if you had infinite resources, all the money in the world, and you could make films a more traditional way, like, somebody came and dropped, $10 million in your lap. Do you think you would want to go like the traditional studio system, or do you prefer to keep it a family affair and not have to answer to anyone?
I'm going to give you my honest answer. I love working the way we work. It's not that we don't appreciate or would say no to opportunities to work with bigger budgets or with other people. But I always, always, always want to have room to do what we do. I love it. It's where I'm most comfortable. I'm very happy here.
I think when it comes to our ideas, we love our process because honestly, we're hanging out with Lulu, Zelda, and our great friend Trey. We're talking art. We're waiting for clouds. It's a great experience. There's not a lot of tension, and we like what we do. I think that we also do like working with other people, especially when it's their ideas and they've said, hey, we like your tone. Could you come help? Could you direct this script, or could you direct this? And that's fun because then you're talking to like a writer or a producer and you're saying, okay, what do you want us to, how can we help? And then that's fun because they're asking us to bring our tone to their story. That's fun. But when it comes to our ideas, I don't think we want $10 million. And I know we don't. I think all we want is time.
No, it's a good lesson to give anybody. In fact, leading into my question as well, which was, time is so valuable, especially when you have a family and you get to work with them. But the question being, any advice for aspiring filmmakers out there who are maybe just picking up a camera just now or planning to start their own careers? Any kind of like macro advice you might throw their way?
I think it's really important not to get hung up on money, because I think sometimes people think, well, I have to have this amount of equipment. I have to have this, that, and that. And I really think you can get stuck. You can throw a stick in your spoke if you worry too much about the have-nots, like what you don't have. I think my advice would be to just like get rocking, because you're going to make something cool. You're going to learn from it. You're going to meet people you want to collaborate with. I think it's the waiting that can really stifle people's creativity.
Yeah, I'm with Toby. The answer for that question is go do it. Muscle through it, make mistakes, or, make a masterpiece. You might make a masterpiece and complete it and put it out and let people see it. Don't be afraid of criticism. And then start your next movie while people are talking about the one you just put out, whether it's a short or whether it's a feature. And we also highly recommend the horror community, because the horror crowd is very open-minded about art and filmmaking, and they will watch your movie, whether it's shot on an iPhone or whether it's shot on an ARRI. So it's a great place to do art and show everybody your ideas.
Very sage advice indeed. I think time and time again, we hear from folks who are like, just do it. Just start somewhere, and not to be afraid of perfection, which I think is really good for people to hear. And always love hearing the horror community get the appreciation that I think a lot of people overlook, fans of the genre. But I agree with you. I find them to be incredibly open-minded, and they're not watching the genre because they're looking for the biggest names to be in the films. They don't need talent. They don't need huge budgets to be impressed. They're looking for an experience, or maybe to have their something provocative to think about. So wise words in summation.
I agree with you. We love the horror community. And we find that the horror community is a lot like at least the punk rock community that I grew up in as a teenager and in my 20s, which is they don't need fancy recordings. In fact, sometimes the shittier the recording, the better the song. They don't need a 3-minute song, sometimes a 30-second song. The horror community is very punk in the fact that they don't follow the industry's rules for movie watching. They follow their own desires. So it's a great place. Also, it's a great place to meet wonderful people.
And I mean, think of how much incredible horror material is out there. I mean, it's just wonderful. The amount of, material out there that you can watch. It blows my mind. I mean, we learn so much from watching other people's works. It's cool that there are a lot of women filmmakers in horror now. I think that the horror community has some of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And in the same breath, we could be talking a film like Basket Case, which I also love. It's such a rich realm to be in. And once we kind of finally started making the films we wanted to within the genre, we were like, oh my God, this just feels like home. And it's something we're very grateful for.
No, we're grateful you guys are still at it. And like you said, learning every step of the way, whether it's infancy, tantrumy toddler phase, whatever you're in an early phase. And we're excited to see where you go from here for sure. And again, Where the Devil Roams is available as folks are hearing this. It's in theaters now, including select Drafthouse cinemas. And as of November 7th, which is likely after you're hearing this as well, it is on VOD. So you can buy or rent it on all your major VOD platforms. We'll have links to their other films and to Wonder Wheel on paperstreetpodcast.com. And that concludes the formal interview. So we will segue over to the Rapid Fire 15.
I was going to ask, do you want to pick one of you to answer first for these ones? Because they're kind of like quick.
Toby should answer. Oh, I don't care. Do you want?
Okay,
who's fastest on their feet?
It might be John.
Okay, yeah, I'll go first. I'll go first. Let's try it.
All right.
I'm not as smart as Toby, but I can. I can dance.
This doesn't require intelligence, just about your taste.
This doesn't require intelligence? I'll go first.
Not an IQ test, not a cool test. It's really just like first thing that comes to mind. We're not going to try to break your brain. It's really about your taste and stuff you're into. So I'll give you an example. We'll start off with question 1 here. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
The Thing.
Let the Right One In.
Ooh, like both of those choices.
Both very wintry movies too.
We love winter movies.
All right, question 2. What's the first film that really scared you or stuck with you and gave you nightmares?
Phantasm scared the crap out of me.
The Case of the Two-Headed Transplant. A creature double feature on Sunday morning.
Ooh.
I'm with you, John. Phantasm. That ball scared me to death too as a kid.
Oh, I didn't sleep for a year.
And then number 3, what would each of your favorite horror movie franchises?
The Omen.
The Omen as well.
Nice. I'm not sure we ever had that answer, but yeah.
Nobody said The Omen.
Oh my God, it's great. Number 2 is fucking great. It doesn't get great reviews, but we love it.
Yeah. I like that franchise as well. I love the first film, but the others don't get a lot of love, and they're all interesting movies.
Yeah, it gets really dark and great by number 3. I mean, it's all...
Oh, yeah.
I think it's exceptional.
Yes. Young Sam Neill.
Yes, exactly. It's so cool. But number 2 gets really bad love. And we just watched it again recently. And it's so good. The Devil Kid is amazing. And his brother, it's so sad.
All right. Question 4. What is your favorite horror movie subgenre?
Werewolf stuff.
I love vampirism. I love anything to do with like blood and sucking blood and spitting blood.
Ooh, both creatures.
Next question. Is there a movie, a song, a television show, anything in pop culture maybe that makes you emotional or always brings you to tears?
Yeah, for some reason, Tom Petty's song, You Can Walk Me Up to the Gates of Hell, but I Won't Back Down.
Oh, that's a good one. Every time I see East of Eden, I cry.
That's fair. That's fair. Question 6. Without spoiling anything, what is your favorite twist ending in a film?
Oh, The Mist.
I'm going to go for The Innocents. I don't know I wouldn't say there's a twist, but it's pretty brutal what happens with these kids.
Oh, yeah. It packs a punch.
Next question would be, do each of you have a favorite horror movie filmmaker or just a favorite director in general, if not necessarily genre?
Yeah. I love what Julia Ducournau is doing. I think she's the boldest. I just love her films. She doesn't give 2 shits what anyone thinks, and she makes what she wants.
I have to go with John Carpenter just because I love The Thing, and he's done so much great stuff. He does the music. He's exceptional.
Great.
Good answers.
All right. Question 8. Do you have a favorite moment in a movie theater with watching a movie, a screening, or a festival experience? Not necessarily your own movie. Could be your own. Something where the crowd was really high energy.
Yeah. When I was at Fantastic Fest in 2019, there was a Thai film called The Pool about a big crocodile inside a pool. And the audience was just dying. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is why I love cinema. It was one of my favorite hour and a halves in the movie theater ever.
The one that sticks out for me is I was watching Face Off with John Travolta and Nick Cage. And about 10 minutes in, this guy just gets up in this New York theater and he goes, "John motherfucking Woo, baby!"
That man's name, John Adams.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
I love that. Toby, I was going to say,
Must have been right after the Doves. It's after the Doves scene, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. All the John Woo telltale signs. I was going to say, Toby, I might have been in that theater with you. I also saw The Pool at Fantastic Fest that year. So great, though. It was a blast.
Similarly to the theatrical or festival experience, do each of you maybe have a favorite concert you've attended or a very memorable concert experience that sticks out?
Black Flag changed my life, 1984. Everything changed. And in fact, it still is how we like to make movies. We're like SST, do it yourself, get in the van, keep playing.
Well, I didn't really love the concert where I met John at Irving Plaza. I won't mention the band because I don't want to be mean, but I met John at a concert. And so that one stands out because that's how we got to know each other. And I thought he was a big weirdo. I'll throw it out there. But
and she was right.
But it got us to the next day and the next.
I think that definitely qualifies as a memorable concert experience. Yeah. Question 10. Who is the nicest celebrity you've ever met or had an interaction with?
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Mike's a great guy. I used to wait tables at this restaurant in New York City called The Coffee Shop, and tons of celebrities came there. And David Lee Roth was the nicest guy. He was this classy, wonderful guy. He'd remember your name. He'd get the same thing, a red striped beer, red beans and rice and kale. And he was the sweetest.
That's interesting. He has a prickly reputation with his own bandmates, but it sounds like I've heard similar that he's like a nice guy though in public.
Oh my God. He was a sweetheart.
It's funny, you're segueing for us here, but the next question was, what is one thing you do miss when you are away from New York or New York City? Is it the food? Is it the weather?
Bagels.
Actually, the bagels up here where we live in the Catskills are incredible. Even better than the city.
Yeah, but remember when we were in like Montreal and they were bragging about the bagels and we had a bagel and it was like a 3-day year. Yeah, it was terrible. And then we went to a couple other bagel places and they were all tasted the same. So bagels.
I'm going to say pizza. It's hard to go somewhere outside of New York unless you're like in Italy. But for a good New York pizza, like Joe's Pizza, John's Pizzeria in the Village, they kick ass.
All right, then at home up in the Catskills, what's your favorite place to eat? Like if somebody's visiting you from out of town, where would you take them?
Honestly, to our kitchen. But if we, because we really do live kind of in the middle of nowhere. But if we had to take somebody somewhere.
Our closest town, Livingston Manor, has gotten all these kind of great people have come up from Brooklyn and brought their really good food with them. So there's this kind of corner now that has this incredible bakery. And then there's a great like biscuit and sandwich shop. And then it turns into this wonderful fancy like bar, shishi restaurant at night. So they have got it going on. So I will say it's called the Walk-In. They make incredible food. Like they have this sandwich called Papa Smurf. It's like their homemade bread with like roasted mushrooms and like sriracha and broccoli coleslaw. Oh my God, it's so good.
Ooh, I love that. I guess follow up then, John, if you're the one that cooks, what would you cook as a home cooked meal for somebody then? Do you have a go-to?
That's easy. I'd make bacon cheeseburgers and then Toby would make us all kick-ass vegetables so we stay healthy.
Or my lasagna.
Or I make ribs. I make really good slow roasted ribs.
Sign me up. That all sounds great.
Okay.
You guys
you got a deal anytime. Come on over.
We'll have both. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have both. And then I'll make you Sundays when it's all done.
All right. Let me check my schedule. So you guys have done your fair share of traveling. Question 13. You've been around America a bit in the RV with the early feature and stuff. What would you say is each of your favorite place that you visited in these United States?
Right now, it always changes because I love the United States, but I'm going to go with Manzanita, Oregon.
I love the Pacific Northwest as well. I'm just sold. Yeah.
That's where I'm from, is the Pacific Northwest. So
lucky you.
Where, Becky?
Yeah.
I grew up in Washington State, a small town called Maple Valley.
Is it north of Seattle or?
Southeast of Seattle. Kind of, I guess if you know where Issaquah is, or
Sure.
kind of around that area.
I went to the UW.
Oh, lovely. My brothers both went to the UW, so.
Loved it.
It's gorgeous, for sure. I do miss it sometimes. Colorado's beautiful too, but I do miss the green.
Mm-hmm. And I actually miss just the relentless rain. Like I love it. It's not like rain. It's more like kind of relentless drizzle. I love it.
We shot quite a bit of Hellbender in Washington and in Oregon.
Yep.
It's a good place. Yeah, good place for backdrops. And you don't have to, if it's not raining, you get the gray skies, so you don't have to worry about controlling the sun as much.
Very true.
Singing our song.
Yep.
Spotlight.
All right. Question 14. If you could have the answer to one unknown question in the universe, what would it be? Like, is there a God? What's the meaning of life? What's the day you'll die? Who killed JFK?
Do I get to be with Toby forever?
Aww.
Well, that's the question I got. It's true.
What is the color of love? I think we haven't experienced it yet. We just feel it. Next.
Interesting. No, those are as existential answers as that is a question. Sometimes we just get like, are there aliens? You guys went as deep with it as I think the spirit of that question was demanding. The final question here, what would be your dream project to make? Is there an original idea that you just have in your brain that might be too expensive at the moment? Is there an IP you'd like to adapt, maybe an existing story or a historical figure, a story you might want to bring to life? What's the ultimate dream project for you guys?
Well, that's a good one.
I'm going to go with the ultimate dream project is always the one that we're working, or at least that I'm working on. And so the idea that we were telling you about before, that's my ultimate dream project. I'm really looking forward to watching it unfold because sky's the limit when you're working on something. So that's the dream project.
I guess I'll say, I really do love vampire stories, and I've had ideas kicking around where I want to come up with a super kind of original take on that. And so that's something that I'm still trying to formulate is like my ultimate vampire film. And it might not have to do with blood.
Might not have to do with blood. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Toby's got
That's
a
intriguing.
wicked cool take on vampires.
Well, I hope that we'll
Interesting.
see that eventually.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes the interview. You've both been amazing with existential questions and just about everything else, too. Is there anything you want folks to keep an eye out for besides, obviously, go see Where the Devil Roams in theaters or on VOD, because it will be in theaters as this airs and then be dropping very, very soon. But are there any other projects you want to nod to, or somewhere you want to direct folks if they want to learn more about your family or check out some of your previous work?
Well, we have a movie called Hellhole that's coming up that we shot with Shudder. Our daughter wrote a script and Shudder produced it.
It's a creature feature.
Yeah, which is a lot of fun. So that's going to be
We
fun.
shot it in Serbia. That is going to be a lot of fun.
And otherwise, our band is Hellbender, where all the E's are sixes. And we enjoy doing that too, because we get to kind of hang out and write fun songs.
And John's just kind of put up like the first, like what essentially be side A of the soundtrack for Where the Devil Roams. And side B is coming really fast. And it's got some great music, some that's not in the film, but he's really written some beautiful music for this one. It's heavier and I love it.
Yeah, I like the heavy stuff.
Thank you.
So yeah, Toby, John, thank you for the interview. Thank you for the rapid fire answers. It's been a blast talking to you guys. We've had you on this list for a good while, and again, once we had touched base with you and have worked with you on stuff we'll talk about down the road here, you've been as advertised. There's like a zero pretension with you and the family. You are as much as you talk up the horror community, you guys are a valuable part of it. And again, we are excited to see where you're going. We're excited to see what you all do next, and we're glad to have you in that community, as we like to think we're a small cog in it as well. And again, I'll pitch again to Where the Devil Roams some more as we say goodbye to you. But yeah, take care, and we'll see you soon at one of these festivals, if not Telluride Horror.
Hey, thank you guys. And Paper Street is doing some rockin' stuff. I didn't even mention that we saw Scare Package 2 at Telluride a couple years ago, which was so much fun there in the Sheridan. I think I saw it. Were you there too for that?
Yep, I was there for part 1 and part 2.
Oh yeah, I saw part 2 there, which was a blast. Anyway, you guys are doing such cool stuff, and I can't wait to see a lot that's on your roster. And thank you for having us.
Yeah, super generous of you two to have us on your show. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks again. Take care.
Yep,
Bye.
take care, guys.